So if you have had surgery, or if you have been in some sort of rehabilitation, or if you have been treated for cancer, or you have supported someone who has done any of those things, and I have prayed with you, you can be probably 99.9% sure that I have prayed for one, if not all of these things. I have prayed that you would be aware of the presence of God with you, the presence of the resurrected Jesus in the midst of your struggle. And I probably pray that God would give you perseverance and patience, and depending on the situation, maybe even a sense of humor. And I prayed for all of that because I think those are essential elements in healing. However, I could only pray for one, knowing, of course, that God is present with us and God makes himself known to us. The one thing that I would pray for all of us, is perseverance. Something that is so important in life. Maybe one of the most important qualities. Perseverance. If you go to the dictionary, you know, that ancient book, and you open it up and you look up the word perseverance, you've got to find a P and an E and an R. Oh, sorry, I'm being sarcastic. Anyway, if you find perseverance in the dictionary, you will see that it says perseverance is persistence. Perseverance is dedicated, or that's not the word, it starts with the D though. Something, patience, and surprisingly, it says also that perseverance is a state of grace for those who are waiting for salvation, which I was very surprised to see in Webster's dictionary. I like all those definitions, but I think of perseverance as being very determined to keep moving in a positive direction, even if it's 2 steps forward and 1 step back, and 2 steps forward and 3 steps back. Are we even yet? To where we started? That's perseverance. And it was because of that word, perseverance, that I picked the passage from Hebrews 12 as the theme verse for our potential building project and campaign. Let us run with perseverance the race that is set before us. Perseverance. Absolutely essential in our individual lives and in our congregational lives. And essential even in today's wonderful gospel lesson. In today's gospel lesson, as Deneen explained to the children, it was Easter, what we call Easter Day. And 2 followers of Jesus are on their way from Jerusalem to the village of Emmaus, which is a distance, they say, of about 7 miles. Now, these disciples, named Cleopas and the other person, we don't know that individual's name, are followers of Jesus, but it doesn't seem as though they're in the inner circle of believers, but they're close enough that they know all about the arrest of Jesus, they know about his crucifixion, they even know that the tomb has been found empty, and they have heard this crazy rumor about these women who have come back from the tomb with what in Luke is called an idle tale about the fact that there were angels there, telling them that Jesus was or is alive. Now, let's think about this a minute. They're in Jerusalem. They've heard this rumor that Jesus is alive. They know the tomb is empty. And yet, what do? They head Does that not strike you as odd? Pastor Barbara Lundblatt says that their sense of hopelessness was so great that they were not impacted by the good news of the empty tomb. Because you see, they were close enough to Jesus that their expectations had not been met. What does it say in verse 21? It says, in the voice of Cleopas, we had hoped that he would be the redemption of Israel, or that he would redeem Israel. So in other words, Jesus has failed them. And even though they have heard this report that the tomb is empty and Jesus is alive, they are so bitterly disappointed that instead of sticking around to see what's going to happen next, to see, if the tomb really is empty, or if maybe Jesus is going to show up, what do? They plod on their way home. And it could be true that their bitter disappointment, is so great that that's what prevents them from recognizing Jesus when Jesus approaches them. Why? Well, because they've written Jesus off. They've decided he's not the one. What's needed here? Some perseverance. And luckily, Jesus perseveres. Jesus appears to them. They don't recognize him. They are being pursued, says Pastor Jen Hunt, by their memories of what had happened on Thursday and Friday and Saturday. They're filled with sadness. They're talking about this. They are so overwhelmed by that and the fact that Jesus has not met their expectations that they don't recognize him. But Jesus pursues them. And Jesus makes it clear to them what the truth is. He opens their eyes and their hearts to hear and to see. And isn't that a beautiful passage that the children acted out? That they invited him for the meal, and that he took the bread and he blessed it and broke it and gave it to them. Can't you just see it? And then suddenly their eyes were opened, their vision cleared, and they recognized him. And then what happened? They went back the 7 miles to Jerusalem. I have this image of them, going toward Emmaus, going, gosh, Jesus didn't meet our expectations. I just don't know. And then on the way back, they're going, oh, let's get there fast. I have running heels, right? Run. They are overwhelmed to tell the good news that the resurrected Lord has come to them, and that their hopelessness has not, what we talked about the last 2 weeks, their hopelessness has not contained him. And so, they are running the race of faith. And this reading from Hebrews fits them and all of us. Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight and the sin that clings so closely. For them, that weight was this disappointment that Jesus had not met their expectations. And let us run with perseverance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith, who for the sake of the joy that was set before him endured the cross, disregarding its shame, and has taken his seat at the right hand of the throne of God. Perseverance. that reading from Hebrews fits for Cleopas and his friend. It fits for us. It fits for us individually and as a congregation. Let us run with perseverance the race that is set before us. And here's the example for our congregation. For the last 7, count them, 7 years, we've been on this marathon. And the finish line has been to create more effective space for ministry. Since since 2007, when we had the To Be Transformed building project and capital campaign, we have taken many detours. You know, we've gone this way, and then we've gone over here this way, and some people have said we're never going to get there, so then we've gone this way. I won't say too much about all those detours during the last 7 years, other than to say that there's been legitimate reasons for all of them. But here we are. And it seems as if the finish line is within sight. And it's an amazing thing. Now, the needs that we had in 2007 still exist today. Maybe even more so, because mainline congregations are declining, and we too have been impacted by that. And so the building team has persevered in developing 5 goals to specifically meet our needs. And those 5 goals are to have an identifiable main entrance off the parking lot that comes into a big area for welcoming and for fellowship, so that people don't have to come into our building and wander around small halls figuring out where they need to go. That's one goal. One goal. Second goal is a new and updated dedicated booth room. The third one is bathrooms that are actually really handicap accessible and new and bright and spacious. The fourth one is to have another meeting space that will accommodate 15 to 20 people, which we need not only on Sunday morning, but also, more importantly, during the week when we have a lot of community groups meeting in our building. And the fifth one sort of came up unexpectedly. It is to redo our parking lot. Part of it is needed because of requirements of the other construction, and part of it is just needed because of wear and tear. So those are our 5 goals for the building. And then on top of that, we've been working on this organ project for the last 5 years, and you heard the good news announcement about that. And then on top of that, we've already set aside and have in hand $50,000 to do upgrades for this space, technology upgrades primarily. Now, let me say this as clearly as I can. The purpose for all of those projects I just named, for the building project, for the technology upgrades, for the organ project, is one thing and one thing alone. And that is to enhance our ability, to improve our ability, to enrich our ability, got another synonym, to make it, should I say, easier for us as a site for ministry, which we have been for 60 years, to proclaim the good news of Jesus in a community where fewer and fewer people are drawn to church attendance or to faith of any type. We know that the technology upgrades, the organ, the building, which by the way will be right out there, that's why I keep pointing out there. The building are not the ministry. They're not the ministry. They are the tools. They are the tools to help us do the ministry. The ministry is done by us, and it's done for people. It's done by people and for people. So while all of this is happening, it'll be equally as important that we're giving of our time, our talents, our creative abilities in order to make Christ known. Because that's the goal. The goal isn't to have a beautiful organ. The goal isn't to have a wonderful welcoming space. The goal isn't to have a better sound system or projection system. That's not the goal. Those are the tools. The goal is to make Christ known and have a facility into which people feel comfortable coming to hear the good news. So, finish lines, you know, it's right out there. It's inside. I can't believe it. Because 2 weeks from today, we're going to vote. It's concerning the church building project. The technology upgrades have already been approved by the congregation. The organ, because it's funded by designated donations, has already been approved by the council. And the congregation is going to vote on the building project. So I encourage you, between now and then, to persevere. We've been persevering during these last 7 years. Persevere a little longer in prayer about your vote concerning that building project and how you will support it. It could be, this summer, could be one of the most busy and exciting summers in recent memory. And when I say memory, just let me make this comment. You know, when you're going through it, you know, sometimes I felt like Cleopas and his partner. What's going to happen next to keep this from happening? And I thought, oh, I'm so disappointed. I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know how God's leading us. You know, that's what it feels in the midst of it. But now, standing here today, I can see why it all happened. Or at least I can see that in the midst of it, there have been positive events and twists and turns. And isn't that the way it is in our individual lives as well? So, when we're doing all this racing, whether it be in our own lives because of an illness or a job loss or a relationship problem, or whether it's a church building project, here's the most important thing. We need to remember that we never have and we never will run it alone. We are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses, the believers of the past and the present. And Jesus is in the lead. That's the thing to remember. Jesus is in the lead. And we just follow him. So let us run with perseverance the race that is set before us.